Good morning, and welcome to Quality Perks.
Morning.
I'm Karyn Dupree, and I have Neal with me and our esteemed guest, Daniel.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So we are going to be talking about, is the art of conversation dead? But first, the most important part is let's talk about our coffee. So,
who's going first?
Neal.
Me?
Neal,
All right.
go ahead.
So today I've got Stumptown Coffee Roasters from Oregon, Portland, Oregon. It's very good. Enjoying it. Dan, what do you have?
Do you grind your own beans, Neal?
I do.
Your grinder? Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to do that. Absolutely. Well, the great thing about getting a job back in an office setting is the free coffee. So I have to tell you that I am drinking Rich Coast coffee from Central Pennsylvania, delicious Americana blend, and I love it. I can't get enough. I'm so happy I found a place to work that has such great coffee.
Now, those who follow the show know that I drink a tremendous amount of coffee, but I've been trying to cut back after fans were worried about my health. How many pots are being made around your office during a day? You told us earlier.
I don't know the total number of pots made, but I make between 5 and 6 pots a day. But where I'm at now, lots of HVAC and plumbing technicians, so the coffee has to constantly be flowing. Yes, a lot of coffee being made here.
Not all being consumed by you, so that's you're getting other folks drinking as well.
I'm an 8 cup a day kind of guy.
Yes, see,
yeah.
Finally
8 cups. Wow, I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Oh,
absolutely,
I sleep just fine.
Well, you're in the cold now, Dan, so you're going to need coffee to keep you warm.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, I'm drinking a delicious type of coffee. It is Doppio's. It's called San Pacho Honey. You can find this in Corolla, North Carolina. I picked it up on vacation this year, and I am just loving it. Smooth, and I can taste that little bit of honey with it as well. But it's funny because I was talking to my daughter who's in college yesterday, and I was asking her, hey, I'm doing this live event tomorrow, and the topic is the art of conversation dead? And I said, what mug should I use? And she's like, absolutely, you've got to use the Oscar the Grouch mug. So that's what I have, is Oscar the Grouch. It says Scram as well. So I always say, again, about conversations, customer service, customer experience. I'm a Karyn, but not that type of Karyn.
So between the three of us and the thousands watching around the globe, our customer experience experts that we are, I guess our job is to figure out how to not make contact center agents like Oscar the Grouch, right? So that's and a good way to do that is through the art of conversation. But Dan, when we had our conversations about you joining us today, we talked a lot about that. How in your career you've come across different ways of agents handling calls, and how quality monitoring and training initiatives can go along helping that art of conversation, but it's still a struggle. So we'll open the floor up to you to kind of give us a little bit of history as to why this is a passionate point in customer service for you.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, customer service should always be, and we'll start here and end here, I think today, on a human to human basis, right? So we've seen a lot of AI generated conversations. We see chat bots, but ultimately human to human connection has been so important in the customer service industry. And I think, sometimes we've gotten away from that. My goodness, think back a few years. During the pandemic, we were yearning for human connection, weren't we? We were being told, call your grandmother, call your mom, check on your neighbors. Everything was about just having conversation. And just quickly, over a 3-year period, it does seem like Oscar the Grouch, or we're getting close to Christmas time, aren't we? The Grinch is taking over the customer service world, and I wonder why that is. We can talk through quality, we can talk through how we have conversations, but the reality is our world is changing, and we need to be able to up our game, if you will, with conversation to be able to keep with what the current trends are, Neal.
Right. So so yeah, I mean, AI is here, right? The chatbots are here. It's a very effective way of handling certain types of interactions, your tier 1 and, maybe some tier 2 interactions. So, those basic kind of, I want to pay my bill. Where's the address? How much do I owe? Those types of conversations. But when you get into some more higher level discussions, at least for now, right? We've still got, that human to human interaction. I personally think that it's only a matter of time before AI takes over that as well, or calls are segmented into a much more linear path, so that a lot more calls could be taken by AI. But how do you go about? I mean, not only where you are now at HP Solutions, but in your previous life, how do you go about conveying the importance of that human to human interaction?
Well, you certainly have to start with having call center agents bought into your company mission, right? So if they're not bought into the work that you're doing and they feel good about the work that they're doing every day, chances are it's not going to reflect in a positive conversation with your customers. So for me, in previous roles, and certainly even here, it's about helping to understand what the conversation should be about that creates the best customer experience. That's why it's important that quality assurance, customer surveying, customer feedback plays such a huge role in how we develop agents and being able to celebrate those things. So, it's more to me than just metrics. You did great on this phone call. Here's your score. But how those metrics play into the customer experience. And if we help agents realize that the work they're doing can really impact how the company performs and how a customer thinks about your product or your service, that's huge in our industry.
Yeah, I read an article earlier this week about, from a customer experience perspective, about the need to get away from, net promoter and tools like that are important. They play a role, but they can't be the only guiding focus in managing your customer experience from the customer's perspective, right? So it's interesting that you touched on that. Human to human interaction needs to, be about making life easier for the customer, but also impacting the company's bottom line, right? So how's my customer experience strategy making money, saving money, and making it easier for my customers to enjoy my product or services? And that, to your point, making sure that agents are really bought into that holistic approach to that it's not it seems to come up often on these podcasts, and at least for me anyway, it's that 1,000 call stare, right? Like, okay, I'm coming in to take the call, I call. And it may impact their ability to make that human to human connection. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
I don't want to get lost in this conversation today, that the idea that customers' expectations sometimes versus the reality of the service that we provide, can be really off, right? So Karyn, how many times a week, a month do you hear someone say, "This is amazing," or "That was amazing"? We use this term "amazing" in our day-to-day life, where, let's be honest, most of the time it's not amazing, but we use this word as just a way to communicate and to give people praise, right? So if we're using this word, advertising and different companies are selling an incredible experience, aren't they? everything that you see branded, we're the best, we're the best. And then we call, and maybe that expectation that we're calling the best doesn't always fit, does it? So, expectations versus reality is something that I think in call centers, we really have to start to have a conversation around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who are you talking to, right? So you're talking to the agents who are on the front line. It's not the folks in the C-suite. It's their job to your point, facilitate that company culture and make sure that everybody buys into it. But at the end of the day, the people talking to your customers are those agents or those bots or that AI. So It better be crisp, it better be positive, and it better be able to resolve the customer's issue succinctly and politely at the same time.
Absolutely. So, is the art of conversation dead? That's the topic of the day. And my goodness, I hope not. We as professionals in the quality and customer service space really do have an opportunity for the next generation of our workforce to teach them ways to have great conversations. The reality of the situation, from where I sit, and I'm sure with the clients that you guys, talk to and work with on a daily basis, is that an older workforce is starting to get out of customer service. So these workers were used to having conversations. They were used to phone calls. They were used to face-to-face, going to a bank teller and having those kinds of interactions. The younger generation of workforce that we're all hiring isn't coming from that same place, are they? Mm-hmm. So one of the things within your quality program that I was really encouraged by was, no secret sauce being given away, but how we could tie back quality assurance to the customer, right? And, did you make me feel welcome? Did you make me as the customer feel welcome? Did you make me feel like I was important, right? And using that sort of language and changing the mindset of an agent to say, well, you didn't do a greeting, you didn't show empathy, but did you make the person feel like you cared? Those are the things that I think can really help to improve the art of conversation over the next few years, hopefully, before, Neal, to your point, AI is having every conversation for us.
Right. That of, right? Could be, could not be. You never know. But I think another ongoing theme that we've talked about is, to your point, making sure that agents are given the skill set to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And that really comes, again, starts the company culture, right? But it also comes with that training, operations training, and how they're rolling out and constantly reinforcing that point. When I'm sure we've all been in contact centers or around conversations where it's, you're hammering AHT, you're hammering the Q, you're hammering those things. And when that's your mindset, the art of conversation's out the window, because you're teaching your agents that it's a commodity, or it's an assembly line. Get it done, get them out, get them in, get them out kind of mentality, where the most successful customer service organizations do the exact opposite. And they're very proud about that, where it's about developing the relationship. And when you do that, good things come. Their purchasing power increases. They're loyal to your brand. All of those things become reality when you take that time to develop the relationship. And where I'm going with this is the quality program just measures the good work that all those other departments are doing. It's not the quality program's responsibility to get the agent to do that. The quality program measures what agents are being reinforced by the rest of the organization. And sometimes I think we get lost on that. Quality is viewed as a police officer, so to speak, when it should just be celebrating successes if everybody's doing things right.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting you say that. A lot of times, within quality, an organization might say, well, we have this quality program, but our customer service isn't getting any better. Yeah. So how do we as professionals communicate through the organization that this is what we're measuring, this is what our customer feedback is telling us on ways to improve, right? And helping call center supervisors, call center managers be able to coach to those specific attributes, I think is really important. And the reality is that some of these things can be very simple. It doesn't have to be this complex rubric, this complex sort of scorecard that measures everything that can happen on a phone call. One of the things at a previous role that I had, the quality team and I really focused on one thing. Did this conversation make the person's day any better? And yes, we built a rubric around things that were important to the conversation. But as we talked through and listened to calls or provided coaching, we would ask that question to ourselves and to each other. Did this conversation make that person's day any better? Did it improve their life? Yeah, and I know it seems sort of pie in the sky to think about it that way, but are we improving that person's day, or did we hinder it? Did we make it worse? And those are things that I think are so important when you're building a quality program, and certainly when you're trying to coach agents. Did you make this person's day better?
Right. Yeah, that's a wonderful place to start. I couldn't agree more with the less is more quality form. We typically see organizations that have had questions on a scoring form for years because somebody walked down the aisle of a contact center and heard something that they didn't like, and the next thing you know, it's on the scoring form where it's been, scored NA for a long time because you don't need it there. Yeah, so really starting with those behaviors that you want to reinforce and you want the agents to be mindful of day in and day out, call in, call out, to facilitate that positive art of conversation, to engage their customers. My personal favorite is empathy, right? We see empathy on many scorecards.
Sure.
But what does that mean? And how do you go about instilling that behavior on your agents so that they can provide that empathy, make a customer's day better by engaging in conversation? Yeah. And not all agents are the same, right? You're going to have agents who just aren't good at that. But we could give them the support that they need to engage and show them behaviors of agents who are good at that so that they have something to emulate and learn from.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Conversation is more than just the words that we say, right? How many contact center agents have you personally coached or we've talked to, or they say, well, I showed empathy. I said I was sorry.
Right.
I said, oh, that sounds like a bad decision, or, so they would say things, and the words that they use are words that we have trained them to use to show empathy. But the art of conversation is more than just the words. It's how we say the words. It's the feeling behind those words as well. And come on, let's face it, like most contact centers aren't paying people to be psychologists, right? They're not paying them necessarily people who have a ton of emotional intelligence and empathy training. So it's our job to teach that training and to teach how to show emotional intelligence, in a phone call. A lot of times what I would do in different training sessions or in calibration sessions is ask the people participating to close their eyes. Because to the customer, it's just a voice. So yeah, we can see the screens. We can see the things that are happening on the call as we're scoring, but just close your eyes and hear it. And what you hear is what the customer hears. And remove that veil, if you will. It's really incredible to see people go, you know what? That is different. Yeah, it was more than just the words.
Yeah. There's only two things that are consistent. It's the customer's ability to articulate why they're calling.
Yeah.
And the agent's ability to understand what the customer said. And if you're not listening, maybe our next conversation should be, is the art of listening dead? If you're not listening, right, and you're feverishly going through all of your screens, you can't, the train's already off the tracks immediately because the agent thinks he or she knows why the customer is calling, and they're going towards, a resolution as opposed to engaging in conversation and as you said, making that customer's day better.
There's that next QA buzz phrase, right? Active listening. Does the agent have active? What does that mean to someone? What does that mean to the customer? So yeah, is the art of listening dead? I think that's a great a great segue to another conversation, Neal.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Well, Daniel, thank you for your time today. I think I always learn a lot when I talk to you, and I appreciate that. So thank you for having us, being with us today.
Absolutely.
And we'll get you on board for another conversation about the art of listening.
Human to human,
yes.
man. Human
That's
to
right.
human.
Absolutely.
Share some more
We have
stories.
humans, we should have conversation.
Right.
One thing I wanted to add too is it's not just about between the agent and the customer, but it's internally as well. So having those conversations with your agents and managers and just your coworkers, then will bleed over into how they're communicating with your customers as well. So, it's very important to make sure that you're having those open dialogue conversations, you're utilizing that conversation and segue to the listening as well, to really understand what's going on with your coworkers. And I tell you, it bleeds over. Just even, you see posts on social media and anywhere, even on LinkedIn, it's like, smile at somebody. Just that act of smiling, then it follows on. And so, the conversation, have a great conversation with someone, that conversation, then they will have a good conversation with the next person. So
absolutely. And celebrate.
Yeah.
We got to celebrate. When people do a great job, let's celebrate it.
You did a great job, Daniel. I love it.
Thank you,
Karyn. I think Karyn brought up a third new show, right? Like for the remote workforce and those who were remote who now went back into the office, missing that interaction, that company culture. To your point, Karyn, like the company culture that we may have had in the office helps bleed over to the workforce that's answering the phones from the customers, right? Because we were all engaged. Now that's segmented a little bit from homes. And I know there's been a ton of research, and we wouldn't be the first people to talk about, the impact of working remotely and the work that needs to be done to keep a workforce engaged and positive and conversational with customers when they're no longer encapsulated in that culture like they were when they were in an office or in a contact center. And Dan, since I know you're going through that, it'd be a perfect opportunity to kind of talk about the transition from a remote contact center environment to a on-prem contact center environment, and relearning some things from the past that you had to implement now.
Well, certainly you can't pretend like your Zoom cut off.
Right. And we're done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I've really enjoyed talking to you today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having Karyn as always. Appreciate everything. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody on our next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.